to hire someone who has as much passion for your business as you do.
Yeah.
Really hard time of telling customers no.
Oh, do yourself. You should just be resting right on a plate. I didn't know how to make nothing.
Finding them that failure isn't the end.
It's not that I don't want you here. It's something about the way you stare into my eyes. I know that.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm back with another interview. This is much appreciated, very anticipated. I am happy to have an opportunity to have an interview with you. I heard so much about you, like just as a person. This is the first time you have ever teach me and get to know me on a personal level. So I'm gonna first tell you a little bit about me and why this is important to me to have an interview with different persons just to get their outlook and perspective, and even persons that are older than me. So the reason being is that I aspire to be an executive pastry chef. That's my dream since I was whatever age. Yes, and that's what I just decided that I'm going to do, and I'm here today to get the experience, to get the cultural diversity, to be more able to be get out my comfort zone, basically, to actually socialize with more person that have the same passion as me and the same drive. And you're the perfect person.
Thank you.
Because you have the same passion. You have been through different places. You traveled, as you mentioned, you were in the military. So I see this as a great opportunity for me to get to know more of what I'm going in the work world to expect. So today, thank you so much for making the time
You're very welcome.
to do this interview with me today. I really appreciate it. Today we're here with Chef Jenn, chief of the director of the law enforcement, and you're a pastry chef, a pastry teacher, a mom of
5
kids. So she's a lot. She's a lot, and a veteran. I've been in the military. So today she's gonna go over her experience of those different jobs that you encounter. What was it like for you? So I'm gonna go into the questions now. So the first question I do have for you: what inspired you to pursue pastry arts while serving in the military?
Well, my mom's a retired pastry chef, and my brother, father, grandfather, uncles, great grandfather, great great grandfather, all served in the military. So it was kind of a combination of those two entities that drove me into the culinary world and the Army. I didn't know I was going to join the military. I came to culinary art school first and then joined the military. But it was, I've always had a sense of duty to my community. So
Yes.
joining the military was one of the things that I chose to do to serve others.
Oh, that's great. And to me, you're a person that actually love people. You can be strict. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah.
You can be strict, but you're very cool with it. It's not like you're like, "Ugh," like you're not that type of person. I realize that you actually love people overall, and that's why I think that's why you chose that as a passion, because you love to cook for people, and through cooking you showed love.
Exactly.
And that's what I do too. Cooking for me, I think I show love with cooking. If I'm mad, I don't want to cook, because then I don't get to show love in the food that I'm preparing. So that's with me. Next question: how do you balance the discipline of a military with the creativity required in baking?
So there really isn't any creativity in the military aspects of cooking. They're very strict in that they have what is called a recipe card. and you follow that. Depending on what branch. So, for instance, I was in the Army, and the Army in culinary world, very, very strict. In the Air Force, however, it's not quite as strict, and their food service individuals are seen more as like us, so more like chefs than an airman or airwoman or a soldier. Their job, they're seen as that and not a military person. So it really depends on what branch you go into as to how much creativity you're allowed to use when it comes to creating things. Now, I will say, if you're stationed in an area that doesn't allow for a lot of the products or the ingredients that you're used to, that's when the creativity comes along. So you've got a recipe card and it calls for a certain kind of lettuce or whatnot. Using that creativity, oh, well, I don't have iceberg lettuce, so I'll use romaine lettuce. I don't have shallots, so I'll use a yellow onion. Like it just, that's the kind of creativity that you get to use when you're in the food service industry in the military.
Nice. Because in Jamaica, we would say anything we have, we just put it together and make something. So in Jamaica, that's what we would say.
Not in the Army.
Yes.
Nope.
So that's what we would say, but it's different. It's more strict, and you have to follow specific rules.
Adhere.
So
Yep.
is it that they are also dietary restrictions that they big pinpoint on?
Not necessarily. Unfortunately, a lot of the military cooks, they've gotten away, and most institutions are the same way. Bigger institutions, they've moved away from the traditional made from scratch type items, and they're bringing in already pre-made things. So soup, for instance, it used to be that you would make a soup completely from scratch, and nowadays it just comes in a bag and you warm it up, and you might add a little bit of seasoning, but other than that, you're not really creating the food, you're just heating it up.
Could you share a story of a memorable pastry you created for your fellow service member?
So different units have different levels of bosses, so they're called the commander, right? So my unit was given a new unit commander, and he was from Georgia.
Wow.
So he moved up here to Ohio. And of course, like Georgia and Ohio are very different, especially like our traditional desserts aren't the same, and vice versa, right? So someone had told me that he was really missing peach pie, that he hadn't been able to get, a peach pie in quite some time. And so my mom has peach trees.
Wow.
And so we had fresh peaches, and I made him a couple of fresh peach pies. And it sealed our relationship, in that, he was really happy. Now, granted, he was like, this isn't like my mama's, but, I still brought a little piece of home to him here in Ohio. So that was nice.
That's such a good thing. And to me, that's what it's hard for us, even though I try to get exposure to the cultural difference. It's hard for us because we're not used to the type of food that is prepared here, so it's that too. So sometimes it's more expensive for us to buy like the authentic stuff that we would get in Jamaica. So but we still do, even though it's expensive, we still do, because sometimes being away from home and not having the food, it's also like sad. So that's why I try to cook, like once I'm off, I just try to cook something, because there's nothing more better than what you are used to, and it keeps you like your mind that, oh yes, I'm still, even though I'm not there, I still can have stuff that I would have in Jamaica. So I get how you would feel, because if someone was to give me some oxtail now, they would make my entire day. Yes. How has military training influenced your approach to managing time and resources in the kitchen?
So I would say it didn't really change me. It should have. So as a military cook, you are one person, and generally you're cooking for 50 to 100 people. So that's the ratio generally. So in our unit, there would have been, say, 600 people. And so we should have had like 12-ish cooks, and we didn't. It was more like 6.
Right.
So knowing that the service time is 11:30. And so everything has to be done very, in order. And of course, that is any food service establishment. All your mise en placing has to be done prior to. So what we would do every day, everyone had a specific task, and there was no deviating. So, for instance, I generally was always on desserts.
Yes.
Go figure. So I would start my morning off knowing, okay, at 11:30, I have to have everything trayed up, everything ready for 600 people.
Wow.
And then, there were the people that were on the proteins. That was their whole job. We were lucky in that the Army's rule is that cooks do not do dishes.
Ooh,
So
great.
so the other people would come in, and it's called KP duty, kitchen patrol.
Okay.
So as a cook, I didn't mess with trash, and I didn't mess with dishes. So there was always someone coming and getting any of my dirty dishes and taking them and doing them. And it's the same with everyone else. So those who were on the vegetables, those who were on the salad, those who were on the protein, we didn't have to mess with doing our own dishes. So that definitely helped, because you didn't have to pause and go do dishes and come back. Yeah. But I'm a procrastinator.
Yes.
I always have been. Always. Oh my gosh.
You don't seem like
I procrastinate. It's our test for Friday. I haven't created it yet. So
remind me of myself.
So one would think that being in the Army as long as I was, that would have broken me from that, but it just is part of my personality. Even as a commercial bakery owner, I still would procrastinate.
Yes.
So,
and how long were you in the Army?
12 years.
Wow. Oh, what was the most challenging aspect of being both a pastry chef and a part of the Army?
Probably the fact that we had to adhere to all of the specific recipes. There was just no deviating. So if they said the dessert is a chocolate cake with chocolate icing, that's what I had to make. There wasn't, I'm going to make some vanilla buttercream to put on the chocolate.
Yes.
Nope, that is what you're making. If it was vanilla cupcakes with chocolate icing, that is what you're doing. So if it was chocolate chip cookies, that is what you're doing. There's no deviating. There's no expression of anything. It's just boring. It's boring.
That would get boring.
It's so boring.
The same thing
over and over and over and over again. Yeah,
for so long. But you did it for a long
time.
So you mentioned that you had your own commercial bakery. Off the camera, you mentioned that to me before, and to the class you mentioned that. Did you do your commercial bakery when you were in the military or after?
It was after.
So was it because of how boring it gets, you decided to get your own so you can be versatile?
So when I was in 5th or 6th grade, I said that my dream was to open up a bakery with my mom.
Wow. So
I opened up a bakery with my mom.
And that was what you really wanted?
I thought it was what I really wanted. There's numerous aspects of owning a business that I hadn't thought about. All my brain was saying was, hey, I get to bake stuff every day the way I want to bake it. Mm-hmm. When I want to bake it, why I want to bake, all of those things. And so I only saw this much of what it is to own a bakery. And then I owned a bakery, and it's actually this much. And so years and years and years and years went by, and I just, it turned into a job. And so it went from being something that made me outrageously happy, and not saying at the end that it still didn't make me happy, but it really turned into a job. And
So was it because you started getting a lot more customer base over the years, so now you have to work more,
yes,
and you can't get, like, sometimes you can't get good employees for your business.
yep.
So that's always a downside in a
Yeah.
business, as I read. Because
Yes.
I don't have a business.
So before I started my bakery, I did have meetings with numerous other friends that owned businesses, not bakeries. Well, I guess one of them kind of owned a coffee shop bakery type of thing, but just other friends that were in the food service industry. And one of them sat me down and said, Jen, don't ever expect to hire someone who has as much passion for your business as you do.
Yeah.
And I, at the time I was like, you're such a Debbie Downer. That is not factual. I'm going to, they're all going to love my business as much as me. And he was right. Like, you have the chance of finding a couple employees that really love to be at work, but they're like finding a needle in a haystack. They're few and far between. And most of the time they move on to, better careers, because it's not like I was paying, $25 an hour.
Yes.
It's a lower paying position. So, they would, and most of them were college students, so they would move on. But in the beginning, for the first probably 4 years, I had a really hard time of telling customers no.
So that's where you went wrong.
That's
why I said you love people.
And that is a huge part of owning a business, and not just owning a business. So if it's one thing to be the business owner, it's another to be the head pastry chef.
Yes.
It's another to be the person that people come in to meet with about specialty orders. So we did weddings, all kinds of weddings. And so the problem came that a couple would come in and they would book May 1st. All right, I'm booked May 1st for a wedding. Another couple would come in, their wedding's May 1st. I'm already booked, but okay, I'll do yours too. And then another couple would come in. Okay, our wedding's May 1st. Oh, I've already got two, but I can swing it.
Yes, you're trying to not lose, right?
And then another couple would come in.
Wow.
And yeah. Yeah.
Your business was a flourishing business.
Well, and here in Athens at the time, there was one other that I knew of, one other place that did wedding cakes. And I was it. So people would come, and generally what happened is my first booking would be the couple that booked me a year in advance.
Wow.
So they the next booking, maybe 6 to 8 months in advance. That third booking, like 2 to 4 months in advance. So it slowly, it just drained me. It drained me completely, and
because you were working too much
all the time. I would get to the bakery at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would be there until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, every day.
And that's crazy. So when you were in the military for 12 years, then you started your own bakery. Did you start having kids in between those time as well?
So I started having kids before the military and in the military. My last child was born when I was still in the military. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So how were you balancing military life, being a mom, having kids still, get pregnant while in the military, then planning to start your own business?
Well, the planning to start a business, there was no planning. One day I looked at my husband and I said, I think I want to open a bakery.
Wow.
And so I did. But I did it in stages. So here in Ohio, there are a couple different levels as far as home businesses. So I started as a licensed home bakery.
Oh.
So everything was done out of my home. An inspector from the health department came in, they inspected my home, they made sure I didn't have any indoor animals, they made sure that I had a fridge and freezer that worked properly with the thermometers, they made sure that I didn't have any carpeting in my kitchen, and they made sure I only had one residential style oven. So then they gave me my license, and I started that licensed home bakery. And so my husband's deal was, when I outgrew my home bakery, then I could open a commercial bakery. So in 2014, I started the licensed home bakery. In 2016, I opened the commercial bakery.
So within 2 years, you realized
so in the very beginning, I was taking a couple individual orders, but then those friends that owned the businesses started ordering bulk from me. So there's a place in town called Union Street Diner. I did all of the pies for Union Street Diner. The OUN, I was doing breads, brioche, and different types of breads for them. OU, like Ohio University, different entities of OU were ordering. The Athens Country Club, like we were doing stuff for that. Like I just started doing bulk orders. Kaiser's Barbecue, I was doing all the desserts for Kaiser's. So like it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where I had taken over my garage, like all of our garage, our dining room, the kitchen completely, half of one of my kids' rooms, and then we had a storage room that I completely took over. So I just outgrew our home. So
did you have any challenge when you during the process? What were some of the challenges that you face with starting up and just knowing that you want it? So you have the passion, but we all have challenges. It's just life. It just comes when you least expect it.
Yeah.
So what were your challenges?
So there wasn't a whole bunch of challenge when I started the home bakery. It was when I moved to the commercial side. So there are a lot more rules, very strict, stringent rules when it comes to commercial bakery side. So the building that I was going to move into needed a lot of work. So we had to add a door. Actually, we added 2 doors. We had to strip up, because it was carpeting. We had to strip up the carpeting. We had to redo the floor. We had to redo the electric, redo the plumbing. And so everything had to be A, up to code, because it was within the city limits.
Yes.
And B, because it was going to be a commercial bakery, the health department had to come in and say, okay, this prep sink, this has to be like this. The 3-bowl sink, it has to be like this. The hand washing sink, it has to be like this, and so on and so forth. So like everything had to be up to code. Luckily, the construction folks that I had hired to do everything, we had a very open line of communication. So when I said, okay, this is what I want and this is what we have to have, they didn't deviate.
Yes.
So that helped. Money, like having the money to do so, having the money to purchase all of the equipment. So knowing where to purchase the equipment. So there's a place up in Columbus called Restaurant Equippers, and they have scratch and dent items. So I went up and I bought a double convection oven for real cheap. It was brand new, but there was a big old dent in the side of it. That was it.
So
it was, oh yeah. I had a 50 quart and 100 quart mixer bowls that I had bought from up there. We got the tables, we did a proofer, just all of the stuff, knowing where you can get it. There was there's an online auction. There's a couple places, but I got probably 100 full sheet pans, like the big sheet pans, for like $20.
Oh, that's
a
good deal.
A business was going out of business, and so they were just having an online auction. So I mean, that was really good.
You guys had to do a lot of searching to really. So basically, you rebrand the entire building, and then you have to get equipment to start.
Yeah, and that was my path. There are other places that, like, there's already a building that is, food service ready. Yes. I mean, it would take less. It would take less time and less money to have to get that building ready. But the building that I was using was not And
No, it's
it
not.
was nowhere near where it needed to be. So,
But you made it into what you.
yep.
And I think for me, what I've learned from you so far, you are very persistent.
Okay, that is a kind way of saying it.
You
Stubborn. I'm
you're
stubborn.
driven. You're driven.
It's even more kind. Thank you.
Even though you procrastinate, you
Mhm.
still have a goal, and you, no matter how long it takes you, you still get it done. So even though you're taking baby steps,
Yeah.
you still get it done. And I think as a female, you you make a lot of men look look
Mm-hmm.
very, very shady.
Yes. Yeah.
Because what you have done within your years of experience were tremendous work. You have, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, my two paths have been culinary art, pastries, and criminal justice. So, like,
You're a superwoman, you know that? You're a
oh,
superwoman.
no. So when we made the final decision, yes, we're closing the bakery. We're not going to be reopening. I started looking for law enforcement positions. So I got hired by the state as a natural resource officer. So I did that for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And then someone here at the college reached out and said, we really think you should come here and work. And
Wow.
so I did. And now I'm here.
And what inspired you to teach pastry? It was not your idea. You got a call. You just said that.
Yeah.
And how do you ensure your students stay inspired?
So when I owned my bakery, I did classes. So we had adult classes, and it wasn't just bakery stuff. So I taught people how to make mozzarella, and then savory things. And then every summer, we would do week-long baking camps for kids.
Okay.
So Monday through Friday, they would be at the bakery from like 9 to 4. And every day we would just make something new, and everything they made, they would take home. And so inspiring those people to enjoy cooking or enjoy baking, that's why, like, I originally wanted to just teach altogether, because now, like, it's 2025 and I haven't had a class in the bakery since 2019. It would have been like the ending of 2019. There are still people, when they see me out and about, will stop me and say, I still use your buttercream recipe. Or I made a deep dish pizza the other day with homemade mozzarella. Or let's see this cake my kid made because they took your class. Like, there's nothing more heartfelt than passing on some of the passion.
Yes, I believe so too. Because now you pass on passion to us.
I hope.
You do, because for me, I don't know about anybody else in the class, but originally I wanted to do baking overall. But when I came here, it was actually full, and I was coming from international program, so I was on J1 for 1 year. Originally, I just did culinary. I went to college for 4 years in Jamaica before I came here. And after college, I got the opportunity to do the internship program with just having my associate degree in culinary arts and my bachelor's in hospital tourism management. I got the opportunity to do the internship, and I took the opportunity because who would take that? I got to do it for 1 year, and I was in Georgia for 1 year at the Ritz-Carlton Lake Oconee.
Nice.
So I got the opportunity to work at a 4.5-star hotel, which was super, super exciting. When I got there, I think I was gonna work like in kitchen range and stuff, which I didn't want to, because the heat, it's like affecting my face. Just give me a lot of heat rash and stuff. I was like, I don't want to do that. I probably want to be in pastry. When I came there, it's like they know that I wanted to be in pastry, and they were like, "You're gonna go with this executive chef, and he's the executive chef of the pastry department." And I was like, "What did you
Nice.
say?"
Yeah.
And it was when I went into that kitchen the first day. I remember it like today.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we bake in college, but not to the extent where we're baking for hundreds of people.
Yeah.
We're doing weddings, we're doing stuff like that. And I just walk in there with, okay, I'm here to learn, free your mind. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And the first thing I made was a batch of pizza dough.
Oh.
And that was a 10-pound batch. And I followed the recipe. My executive chef, he gave me a recipe and I followed it. And he was like, you did it good. And I was like, okay. Because I was still doubting myself, yes. And he taught me how to roll it and stuff and put it in the, the different containers to store it
Mhm.
for a specific department to get it in the evening. And I was doing it for like 6 months. I was working 7 to 3, and I didn't know how to pipe good. I didn't know how to write on a plate. I didn't know how to make nothing in pastry. And when I tell you in 6 months, I was able to decorate, run the entire shift myself. I was able to decorate any dessert that I need to decorate because we had like 4 different restaurants. So I had to come in the morning, make sure by 12 o'clock A restaurant gets their dessert, B restaurant get their dessert, C restaurant get their dessert for the day, and D restaurant get their dessert. And then E restaurant, they should get dessert by 5. And I had to create my own ideas every day. So it's like you're doing it, you're the owner of the morning shift now. So if one person isn't there, you own it. But I was scared to always work by myself until my chef is I don't know, is different. He's like, okay, you're doing this for 2 weeks, now you're gonna do it by yourself. So it pushes you to be able to do stuff. He don't have you he don't have you just do one thing straight. And then I was like, he had a meeting and he said, "What do you want me to do for you now?" And I was like, "I want you to challenge me."
Nice.
And he was like, "Okay, I want." So I had 6 months left in my program, and he asked me, "What do I want out of that 6 months?" I want to do something that I've never done. I'm tired of morning shift. I would like to try mid shift or night shift. Night shift was no, I didn't want to go there
Yeah.
because that was you working by yourself at the most esteemed restaurant, and everything you do it has to be on point. You cannot send out a dessert. That's if there is dietary restriction, you have to be to the T.
Mm-hmm.
So I was scared to go there. He put me in mid shift for 3 weeks, and I was doing closing shift. The first night I went on mid shift, he said, "Okay, you have 2 plates up to do." And when I checked the shift, I was the only person on the shift. I was like, "Chef, why am I the only person working tonight?" And he was like, "No worry, you can do it." And he gave me the 2 dessert and he said, plate this one, let me approve it. And I plated them and he approved it and he said, "Okay, bye, going on." And I had 40 dessert for one and 30 dessert because it was like an event. So I had to like do 30 and 40 for each event for it to be picked up. And that shift was normally like from 12 to 8 in the night or 9 based on how long you have to stay to wait for them to pick it up. And then you had to do like breakfast for the morning shift crew. And I was on it for 3 weeks and he was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna put you at the esteem restaurant." I don't want to call the name specifically.
Yeah.
That's why. And I was like, "Chef, I don't think I'm ready to go there." So that was like making souffles, making donuts, making what was the other thing? I was making sorbet. I was making ice cream from scratch. I was making what you call it, mousse. You know, the mousse that you make and then you fill it with raspberry. Yeah, and then I had to make a glaze to cover it to make it look red, glossy, and nice. And then cheesecake. That was the menu at that time. I was like, okay, and you had to come in at 2. And creme brulee, yes, you had to come in at 2, and by 4:30 you have to prepare all of those. Then you have to restock each day to see what you sold out and what you have left, because souffle cannot stay for more than 2 days or whatever. And I was like, okay. And 2 days I was like, okay, this is so rough. And he was like, no, you can do it. And within the remaining of the 6 months, I went there and I worked and I worked and I got better. I could write on the plate as perfect. And by the time I left there, every day I go home, I watch a YouTube video. How to write on the plate, how to make it perfect. Until I started and the servers were complimenting me. Until one night, the server came and said, the guests want to see the pastry chef. I was like, no, what do you mean? No, what did I do? I was like, I thought I did something wrong because nobody ever asked me to like go out there and represent for what I just sent out. So the guest had a dietary restriction. I think it was like no, I think it was they cannot have. I think it was just dairy free. So I was like, okay, what do I have? What do I have? So I said, okay, it's her birthday and she maybe wants something different. So I was like, oh my God, everything has dairy. Then I think of the sorbet. So I said, okay, let me do the sorbet, put her a candle in the sorbet, put them together like two to the side, two different colors, and write on the plate, drizzle some sprinkles, and see if she likes it. And then the the server was like, perfect. And when I said, and she said, "Oh my God, you made me feel so special because you gave me something that I can enjoy with not having dairy with my restriction, and you made my night because you're the person that have to like make sure that the guests enjoy that last meal." And I was working from 2 to 12, and that's a little bit of the experience that I have that brought me here to get more exposure. So even though I have the degree and stuff, I still needed to see how it is done, because working here made me realize that you still have to know two different cultures to be able to level up in a good way and not having to work too hard. So that's why I decided to come here. And now I wanted to do baking where I could, because I know the pastry chef even before you knew me. I asked, who's the pastry chef here? Oh, Chef Jenn. So I hear stuff about you. I research you. Yes. So I wanted to be in that class so long. That's just my thing. That's why I ask you so much questions. Like,
That's good.
Yeah.
Questions are good. That's how you get knowledge.
Yes. So that's my background story as to why you would be the right person for me to get knowledge from, which you're giving me now. So yes, that's my background story.
Cool.
How would you describe a moment when you saw a student breakthrough in the kitchen?
Well, I think today, like in the beginning, how I had said, pastry can be very cantankerous. It can be
Yes.
it can be difficult. And today went well, like way better than I anticipated. The way everything turned out was awesome.
See, you're
So
awesome.
it's not. It's just
You're awesome because you showed us and we watch you and we
yeah,
said,
but it doesn't always turn out, and it's not. I wouldn't say that I'm awesome. It's I can be as awesome as I want, but if everyone doesn't listen,
yes,
and
that too.
so it's a partnership. It's a group of awesomeness, and so it's not always about me, And that's the way it should be. As an instructor, it's not always like, I am the best and I know everything and it's always my way. And that's not that's not the way it should be. Because again, there are differences. Like, this is the way I do this. If you have a different way and we both end up with the same end result, cool. That's maybe your way's better. Show me your way. I'm going to change my way. That is the way it should be. But today was really good. There are different instances where a student will start the 8 weeks and not be as confident. And each week that goes by, when we do something different and they realize that they have the ability, that they already had it, but now they realize they do have it, and it builds on their confidence. And by the end of the 8 weeks, I mean, not everyone is going to get everything the first try. Yeah. And there have been numerous times that I've tried to say that I've been doing this for a long time. And there are some students in my classes that I've been doing this longer than they've been alive. So of course, I'm going to whip through something like decorating a cake. I'm going to whip through decorating a double layered cake really fast because I've been doing it for 20 some years. So explaining to them that it may take you a couple years to practice to get to the level that I am, but don't expect to be at this level. I mean, if you are, cool, yay. Mm-hmm. But it just takes practice. I didn't know what I was doing the first time. There's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things I still don't know what, A
lot of things I still don't know.
So it's understanding that you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. But having the courage to continue on and practice more.
Don't let the failure get to you.
Yeah, because we all do.
Because even the croissant, you notice I had so much croissant. That was my first time making croissant from scratch. In the industry, they buy it. We just bake it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you probably see now why they do that, because it's very time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's very, very time consuming. It took us days to perfect that croissant, but they did come out. Even my friends at home, they said, "Oh my God, this tasted so good." They were like, "Can we get more?" Yes, it tasted so good. Yeah. But the process is long. And when I get a commercial kitchen of my own, I want to try that process again. Yeah. What are some of your go-to techniques for helping beginners feel confident about baking?
Reminding them that failure isn't the end. It just means that you need to figure out what went wrong and fix it. A lot of times, especially if we're doing like decorating cakes, a lot of times I will actually ask to put my hands on someone's hands. So like when they're piping a rosette, I want them to feel how much pressure to give the piping bag while doing the motion. Or when we were doing the leaves, like grabbing a hold of someone's hand and showing them the motion. Like I can show it to you by me doing it, but if I literally hold your hand while doing it to show you that the pressure and the movement, some instructors wouldn't touch. And of course I always ask, but it's to understand how to squeeze and how and all of those things. I can look at you, hold the pastry bag and squeeze and say, I'm squeezing right now. Does that tell you how I'm squeezing? No. So physically showing someone, I'm okay with that.
And that's all I learned. My executive pastry chef, sometimes I said, "Are you tired of me?" I think you are. Yes. Yeah. But he gave me constructive criticism.
And
If he comes in one day and he sees me pipe it another way or wrong or it doesn't look right or it looks like a poop, he's gonna say,
yeah,
it looks like poop.
yeah. So
Automatically.
and learning how to give constructive criticism is important as an instructor. So some people have a more difficult time giving appropriate constructive criticism. And so I think I'm pretty good at it. I can be a little goofy sometimes.
No, but that's the fun part.
Like, you know, you gotta.
I don't.
Everyone messes
I
up.
can be sensitive, but not that sensitive when I'm learning.
Yeah.
When I'm learning, you can tell me anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it. And my pastry chef at that time, we build a bond. So if he come in and say he just came in and I was piping it wrong, I was doing it wrong, I was writing the name on the thing, and he's like, "No, that's not. Start over."
Yeah.
I just start over because at the end of the day, I'm learning.
Yep.
And failing is not an option for me. I want to do it until I get it. Do it until I get it, because that's how I would learn. So yeah, that's true. And some people don't know how to take constructive criticism.
Yeah.
It's like she was picking on me in class. Yes. Some people, and you thinking you were just helping.
Yeah.
So some people does. What's your advice for aspiring pastry chef aiming to make an impact in the industry like myself? So what's your advice?
Know that things are always going to change. Trends are going to change, ingredients are going to change, attitudes are going to change, everything's going to change. And it might change, it might come full circle in that something that 10 years ago was the rave, it might come back. But change, it's going to happen. The world is constantly revolving. New things are being created. Old things are being remembered. It just always keep an open mind for change.
That's a very good point. Because change, oh my God. In Georgia, it was different. Here, it's a lot different. Yes. You know, I couldn't ride a bicycle until I got here. And now I ride that bicycle every day like it's my only choice.
Well, there you go.
Yes, so change. That's true. So how do you juggle being a mom and excelling in your professional career as a pastry chef, a law enforcement, and a military cook and chef?
I'm really lucky that I have a very strong supportive unit. So my husband, who I've known since first grade, like we grew up together. He is the reason I can do and have been able to do everything, because I know for a fact he's standing right behind me. And if at any point in time I need to turn and ask a question, or I need help, or I need advice, or I just need a good swift kick in the butt, like he is there. Other than that, having my mom and my sister and my dad, like having that support unit, having those people that are your cheerleaders, having the people that aren't scared to tell you no.
Perfect.
Hey, should I do this? No. You should not.
So they're not pretending.
Correct.
They tell you as it is.
Yeah.
They let you know. Yes, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Sometimes I wish I have that, but I try to make it for myself.
Yeah.
What lessons from your motherhood have helped you in the role as a leader or a teacher?
Keeping an open mind in that the differences. So like you came from Jamaica, your cultural differences alone is way different. Understanding that there are thousands of different cultures and different ways of viewing things and different ideas and different beliefs and different everything. And to respect that. I don't have to agree, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you might have a different way of baking bread. And I might be like, well, that's dumb.
Yes.
But I respect that that is the way you choose to do it. So I think having that open mind, and being able to see that there are so many different ways of doing things, that openness, that really helped.
Passion. How does your family influence your creativity and passion for pastry?
Well, growing up, my grandmother did wedding cakes.
Wow.
So, and she was an artist. So she painted, and my mom had a big family. So she had 5 sisters. So there were six girls all together. And we were very, very family oriented. So huge meals all the time. And so I would see that my grandmother, would create these beautiful wedding cakes, or that she would make Sunday dinner, and it was just this huge amount of food. And so I equated that to love. So, to me, you cook for someone, you love them. Food is love. So seeing that with my grandmother, and then moving on to my mom and the fact that she was also a pastry cook, and seeing the joy that just her cookies. So her cookies, they're a buttercream ice sugar cookie. They're called Nancy cookies.
Wow.
Just her cookies alone, the happiness that these little things would bring a person. Like, that's what I want. That I want to be able to give that type of happiness. So,
and sometimes some people get some dessert, they're like,
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Or like, so when I had the bakery, when little kids would come in to pick up their birthday cakes, there's nothing better than watching like a 6-year-old jump up and down at their birthday cake.
Yeah, that's so heartfelt.
Yeah.
It melts your heart.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna hide, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
All those different emotions. So what advice do you have for moms aiming to pursue their dreams without compromising family life?
Involve your family. So again, the bakery started at the house, and my kids were younger. And so when we moved into the commercial space, I would bring the kids. I've got pictures upon pictures upon pictures of the kids coming in and helping me mise en place.
Wow.
So like it would be funny because we had a row of 3 tables, right? And so my mom would be at the end, and then the kids would stair step, and each of them would do something. So mom also had apple trees. And so because I made the pies for Unistry Diner, we would pick the apples, and then we would go in, and mom would wash the apples, and then 2 of the kids would, we had this machine that you hook up to the side that you would crank it, and it would cut and peel the apple. So mom would wash the apples, 2 kids would cut and peel the apples, and the next kid would put the apple into the lemon water. The next kid would weigh out so many pounds of apples in a bag, and the next kid would close the bag and write the date and what it was, and then I would put it in the freezer. So like it was, but any chance I got to involve the kids in, and my sister and my friends, like involve them, bring them in, make them feel as though it's not just my bakery, it's their bakery. And
Wow.
So creating those memories, giving them confidence, teaching them, like involve them in the process.
So now they're able to bake, right? For sure. And I know they can bake good. You can just be like, oh, go make me something.
Each of them have something specific that they like to bake. Like my middle child literally 2 days ago made banana bread. So banana bread and no-bake cookies are the 2 things that she likes to make the most. So it's, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's such a good, your family is full of love.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Rotten ornery love.
What does that
Rotten
mean?
ornery. We're silly. We
like you.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that must be fun.
There's never a dull moment.
Wow.
We're
Around your
uh-huh.
family. You guys are just baking and just like,
Being
why did you
goofy
put
and
that there?
yeah, yes.
You're
Yep.
such a,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yes.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
What's a favorite pastry recipe that owes a sentimental value for you and your family?
Oh, the Nancy cookie.
Nancy
Cookie. Yep.
Wow.
You can use it as a form of payment in our family.
Wow.
I'm
So you just give
serious.
it.
Yep. Yep.
What do you guys do on Christmas?
Nancy
As a
cookies.
Nancy cookies.
Yeah.
Good tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good tell.
Yeah.
But those were all my questions. You answered them. I'm out of words. This was interview well anticipated because I know I'm gonna learn a lot, which I did, which I'll be watching this video over and over. I won't want to hear my advice, but yeah, I will listen to yours. But thank you so much.
You're welcome
for sharing your experience with me, and not just with me. This is gonna be with a lot of people.
Cool.
So it's going to also influence others out there. Whether you're a mom, you're whatever, you can be whatever you want to be. Because I'm also scared to become a mom and think about what it would do to my career.
Yeah. Don't be scared.
Yes. So it's a lesson to me. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
You can still have a career, a family, a beautiful home, and everything. Because I'm nothing without family. Yes, for real. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day as a busy lady to do this interview with me.
You're welcome.
And what's just one general advice you would give me or just give anybody?
You are the keeper of your own happiness. You can be surrounded by a bunch of people that are not happy and never going to be happy, and that doesn't matter because your happiness is your own. Don't rely on anyone else to make you happy.
That's such a good affirmation. Thank you so much again, Chef Jenn.